Okay, no, there we go. Definitely recording now.
Okay, so we are recording now, and welcome to Central Linux Users Group. Topic for the night is modern Linux logging, chopping through data like a pro. This is a quick little guide to system journal management, and again, total apologies for it not being as polished as I'd like. We're going to look through sort of the whole modern Linux logging with a sort of unique idea of comparing it to lumberjacks. This does totally fall down several times, so yeah, you just bear with me and groan when needed. Uh, so uh, yeah, Tux there you can see is a lumberjack and is totally okay with it. And where did my mouse go? There we go. So why do we want to log sort of an intro to logging? Uh, each application has a bunch of data and things happen in it. And especially if it's a server and you're not sitting there watching it all the time, you want to be able to tell just exactly what the heck happened. And traditionally, each application dumps all its logs into one file. And if you're, especially when you look across the entire system, you have to check this log and that log and the error log versus the standard log versus standard out versus etc. It's a huge mess. But yeah, so you can use it for things like system health monitoring, debugging, troubleshooting, and also just sort of security auditing slash compliancy sort of things, especially if you have permission set up so people can't just undo their logs, because yeah, that's bad. But yeah, so as I was hinting at, traditionally logging a bunch of files just all in one or in various files and various formats, and it's just god awful to try and follow anything, especially if your app is logging to one spot, but it's also being served up by a web server. So the web server stuff is being logged to another spot, which is the
Where did the error go? Is the
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, so if it's a, and then also on top of that, you have, if you're a distributed system and you have an APIG and API gateway, well, logs, events may happen there that never make it through to your application. And yeah, it's just a big hot mess. So one of the solutions around that, sort of like how System D unified everything else, there's also logging baked into it using journal-based logging. It's structured, it has indexing so you can search it. It's easy to grep because you can have stuff classified. So like, this is my web server, this is my application, etc. But you can also just like say search for every log event that is a severity of error or something like that. So there's a lot more oomph there. Plus, it's baked into the OS itself, basically, hand waving. So old school versus new school, people will have fistfights out in the parking lot afterwards, I'm sure. But really, System D is the future, and at some point, just rip off the Band-Aid. So let's look at the core components of System D. You've got journal control, which is really or journal cuddle if you're going with the Kubernetes world love of weird stuff. But and then you also have the System D journal, which is the system that's actually doing all the collating and is the behind the scenes sort of stuff. And then journal API. So if you're writing an application and you don't want to have your RSys log picking up your logs every so many minutes from a file and dumping it into the journal or stuff like that, you can actually actively interact with the API itself and or do it via command line. So it's kind of cool there. And so in between all of these, you get a full logging stack. And really, the thing we're going to truly care a lot about is journal control. And we'll have some examples here in a couple minutes. But really, the big things that you really are going to care about is just reading the logs, being able to filter through and select certain things and find events in the logs, being able to follow. So one of the nice things about this is as new logs, if you put it in a certain mode, as new logs come in and new events come in, it just will append to the end of your screen, which makes life so much easier than, okay, cat is or tail to the end of my log. Anything new, putting watch on it and all of that stuff. Now you can watch the entire system at once rather than piecemeal. And then also you can say, hey, give me all the logs that happened between this time to this time when a user calls and says, hey, at 7 p.m. tonight, UTC, I tried doing a thing and thing sucked. Help. You don't have to try figuring out, okay, what happened. And you can see maybe, oh, my goodness, high CPU use was on the machine, so no wonder it was horrible. Well, why was there high CPU? Well, what other event law? You can do more troubleshooting there. One of the things to know about this is there's sort of three big things that matter in your sysd logs. You've got metadata that goes along with it of you can have like encrypted fields or stuff like that. It's really far more robust than just your standard text field. You can also set, just like if you have any experience with logging at all, the standard severity levels of critical, warning, info debug, etc. And one of the nice things I was seeing that as you're using system the commands to read it, it color codes it based on how severe it is. So like debug is grayed out pretty bad, and the highest criticalities of like warning and stuff like that are red. So that gives you a little bit of a visual indication. It's kind of annoying that by default it's not just right there in as one of the lines. I'm sure you can configure that.
Yeah, it's just color coding. It's like I think the middle ones are also yellow.
Yep. Yeah. It's all levels of severity. But then also there's more context around what gave it, all sorts of stuff like that. So yeah, we've got more examples. I'll dive into that just because I've got it in a VS Code project here. But the advanced things, you can also correlate IDs and stuff like that, as well as just dive in, and we'll have some examples of really bad logging versus good logging. You can also do remote logging via network transport, log aggregation, and centralized stuff. That's where, okay, so I've got this spread across 5 different computers. In the past, I know I have logs in a system that I wrote that, okay, well, we have to check computer 1. Nope, no error message there. Okay, quick remote desktop, computer 2. Nope, 3. Oh, yep, there's the bad thing. And so just the pure amount of time that's lost in fighting that because of bad architectural decisions 10 years ago, yay. Here we are. But yeah, so anyway, though, and then by putting all those logs in one spot, you have the ability to do centralized management, error handling, and stuff like that, whether you pay for something like PagerDuty or Datadog or just script it yourself. It's all possible. And then also you can batch up your log events into groups so that, because if you just send a whole bunch of logs as fast as you can, just one after another, little tiny drips and drabs, you can go, and eventually you're spending more time and more CPU stuff doing logging than you are actually. That is Tux optimizing logs.
The more I look at that image, the more I'm a little disturbed.
It was, yeah, it was very cursed, but again, I didn't have.
No, it's a tuxedo.
Yeah, it's.
I'm not. It's not on you.
Yeah.
Making fun of.
Yeah, AI kind of went off the rails, but it went off the rails in such an interesting way. I kept it just because it was just so cursed. But he at least has some fingers. So yeah. Anyway, though, not to distract from that too much. Yeah. Well, because I'm trying to go with the lumberjack idea.
All right, but the fact that it got that correct, like that's, I know that those are pieces of logs.
Yeah. So yeah, it's yeah. Security wise, there's all sorts of things that you need to worry about. There are access controls that you can prevent people from. You can do the full, because really under the hood it's still everything's a file. Even inside of this, you can treat it like a integrated file. So you can write or not read, read or not write, etc. They, you have the full access control universe. You can also encrypt individual fields in it so that, like say, for example, if you were, for whatever reason, wanting to log a credit card or a username or something like that, you can encrypt it so it's not nearly as bad as just raw texting it in. And then,
please upload credit cards will make your auditor sad.
yes. Yeah, logging as a database is a bad idea. Anyway, then you also can have audit trails and all the various different permissions. We don't dive too much into this just because if you're having to worry about your audit trails and encryption and stuff, an intro level presentation for me is not nearly enough. Talk to someone who actually knows what they're doing, please. Not just the AI that generates a very creepy tux not holding a pencil that's floating in the air. But yeah, a little bit more about masking and that sort of stuff. This is where my presentation starts to fall apart a little bit. But yeah, you can set data retention policies on your logs and run commands to clean up logs and rotate them and all those sort of things. And yes, I know the labeling was very cursed.
Oh, this is great. I'm a huge fan because it's like so pristine until you actually try and read it.
Yeah. And yeah, so basically, modern systems are all connected, and you can integrate and log across and do networking sort of stuff where you aggregate your logs together. It's especially good for like Kubernetes, where you can have each node that's running containers aggregate all the logs together. Or if you just have a bunch of Docker containers, you can totally pool those together. And then also alert and monitor CPU usage and all those sort of things. Best practice wise, you should always structure your logging so that there's more metadata around it so that you can search it. Consistency is truly the key to everything, because if you do some of your logs one way and some of them the other way, in the middle of trying to troubleshoot something, you're never going to remember, well, okay, on Tuesdays I do it this way, on etc. And then also the log rotation cleanup sort of policies are very important. And because it's a horrible, cursed thing when you have your system fail because the logging ran your disk out of space or something horrible like that. Number one, use different disk volumes for each thing. But yeah, also it's horrible when logging makes your machine less reliable when the goal is to make it more reliable and easier to
It's
debug.
therefore important to management. Basically, why does the system fail? The disk log that doesn't go over very well.
Yeah, I think we've all been there before where, oh no, we ran out of disk. But yeah, really, there's some that logging is good. You should do it. And yeah, I didn't even get my graphics that I was planning on generating here created. But again, only so many hours in the day, and actually figuring out how to make stuff work was more important. And yeah, let's This one was AI suggestive, how to end it. Let's chop through our questions here. But yeah, first we're going to demo with, I see Chad, apparently by closing out that, yeah, I'm having a rough go of, I'm gonna get all the bugs worked out of this thing before next time around. But yeah, Chad, I saw you had a comment.
Yeah, if anybody's read Cliff Stoll's book, it's about how he caught that guy through logs, audit logs specifically. The accounting errors were missing on his Berkeley Unix system. Like there was like 1 cent wrong.
Okay, so I'm going to make that a little bit bigger because I'm sure those in the back who have bad eyes like me are having trouble reading. But here we go. Let's just.
Got my glasses on. I'm good.
Hopefully that's a bit better here. Okay, so the first command that we're just going to dive into here, and just for general setup wise, and to tell you about this is WSL and VS Code running on a Intel Core 9 Ultra with all sorts of funky bells and whistles, a brand new computer. But
That's your microcode.
yep. Yeah, and then also they got
we pointed to the other people?
because I forgot to turn it.
Okay.
There. Hi everyone. Sorry.
Oh,
So yeah. Anyway, though, this journal control is the one that we're going to know and love, and really the best one that I like is just the -n, caps lock off, lowercase n. Let's just get the last 10 system log messages. And there you can see it's getting cranky about the fact that I put it to sleep and woke it back up because time is hard. And the poor host or the poor guest OS has no idea what the heck just happened. It's just like the universe stopped for a little bit.
And then jump forward like magically.
Yep, it's sort of to quote the old, several years old now, TV show Dollhouse. Did I go to sleep for a while? So anyway, though, so let's generate up some logs because that's always fun. Let's look what I'll make this a little bit smaller here, but basically this is just some very basic logging. I'm generating it using Python just because, again, we were talking about that API that you can use. And as you can see, there's a module systemd journal and logging. And basically, we're going to be logging demo.basic. And we're going to be putting out debug level or logging level of debug. So if we had any logs that were below the level of debug, so like
Trace.
yeah, trace is below. Yeah, thank you. Those you can log them out, but you're just shouting into the ether and no one's listening. Which is, yep, which is great because you can write your code, you can have these interspersed throughout your code to be able to troubleshoot. But when you're not actually troubleshooting, you can turn the log level up so that you're not using nearly so many resources and not filling that disk.
Another way to do it that way, because if you are having problems with production, you can go turn up the logging level and not redeploy.
Yep. Yeah, so it's all, you can monkey patch your way into it as well, especially in Python.
Yes.
But yeah, so the big thing here is we've got this log system stats, and it will be looking at how much CPU and memory we're using, and it will just basic dump it into the log. And then you can also, so there's the old way of doing it where you just have a text and you're dumping it out. And I mean, that honestly is the way that I've always done it just because I'm old. But with this logger, you can throw these extra information in here to have custom fields that you can then search and handle.
Also, but structure hunting also makes it easier for using external loggers like Splunk or Elkstack or whatever the new modern name for it is.
Yep.
Doing that makes basically if you do it the old way, you're gonna make life miserable when you use a more advanced logging stack.
Yep, and I believe this is using the open, whatever it is, logging standard as well. Yeah, sorry, Chad, go ahead.
Yeah, I had a stupid question. What's the Linux equivalent of like a circular buffer that I can just dump stuff to that's easy to get at?
For Python, a circular buffer, I mean, you'd probably have to write your own.
I was wondering if there's like one that you could just use that's like a shell thing. Like I know there's like name pipes and stuff, but I was wondering if there was a Linux equivalent circular buffer that you could just feed stuff into.
I mean, I know there's a semaphore, but that doesn't do what you want. I was going to say, if you want to search for it.
I can search for that, but I'm not. I don't know if there's a completely standard that'll always work.
Yeah.
Or is that just tailing a log, I guess?
I mean, you can tail a log, right? I mean, you can do that with because like you mentioned, you can do you can tail logs with journal, and I mean you also can use the tail dash out for standard logs.
Yeah, it's looking like you'd have to implement your own probably if you're wanting to do that sort of thing.
Or if you're using file, just do head and tail.
Yeah. But yeah, so anyway, though, one other thing we have is occasional errors that are being thrown, and we have a try catch there. It's puking out a message every 5 seconds. And there you can see it's also logging that the system monitor started and all sorts of stuff like that. So let's just go ahead and run it, generate up some logs here for us.
Don't forget to remove the spaces to clean up the code.
So, yes. Personally,
because it's Python, sort of fake, sort of break. Yeah.
I was going to say, I usually take out the tabs, but that's a whole nother. So one, and I will share these out too for anyone who's interested in deep diving. But as you can see, this isn't actually putting anything out to standard. So let's go ahead and move everyone's happy faces here out of the way so that I can jump into another here, but here you can see we're having the command journal control. Let's find the syslog identifier one.-basic pi and take a look at what messages it's generating here. And as you can see, we've got CPU usage, you've got that monitoring started, all those sort of things there. And of course, since we have cursed amounts of space on our screen. Yeah. Anyway, though. So yeah, as you can see, that works out great. Let's look at what our other sort of messages we can have are. So you can also do things like, okay, find me all of my error messages that are alert level critical. I've got no criticals, but let's try to find warn.
Can you do asterisk?
It would be the equivalency of just doing that.
Okay, that's fair.
But yeah, so anyway, though, or you can also go by the number. So
What does have entries?
Well, if the kernel is dumping stuff there, I can.
Yeah.
What about one? We
Yeah,
skipped over
yeah.
one. You do one, does it give you anything?
Okay, yeah, there's something going
You have to
on
put
there.
double quotes around the right half.
So let's see if system stats will give us anything. Okay, so there's the error message that, or message that system stats were collected. Yeah, sorry, I didn't get all of these debugged out fully,
No, no worries.
but you can also do complex filtering. Like you can say that I want to see system stats where the CPU stat is greater than 80, and I want it as JSON pre-printing. Oops. Right, 20.
No, it doesn't like
Okay.
in text. And I wonder if it doesn't like it because you've got equals greater instead of greater than equals.
Let's try here.
Nope, that was not it.
You probably want to actually quote the whole percent less than the.
Yeah.
Shell doesn't interpret things.
That could also be a WS
Oh.
equalism.
Yeah, we've got a problem where it's
What if you do single quotes instead of double quotes?
don't know.
Don't get angry.
Yeah. Anyway, though, in theory here, you can do this filtering.
Watch it be a backslash or something done.
Yeah. But you can also here you can do your outputs and get the full JSON and be more sane about your parsing. But anyway, though, so as you can see, it outputs out a whole bunch of stuff, and they're all pretty cool stuff. So let's go ahead and quit out of that. Come on. So you can also go ahead and do logging just from Bash itself. And let's go ahead and turn off that other log source because we're just still puking logs into existence there. And let's go ahead and just do a log of now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of their party, because of course, why not? And now if we take a look at last 5 log messages, there you can see now is the time for all good men, and it was logged by user ADEMA on computer MSI. So we can also set log tag and stuff like that. So P is priority, T is for tag, and then the message afterwards is the standard message that you put in. So if we go ahead and do that, you can now see and notice how, since log level 0 is the highest severity, it's red. So now if we were to do instead 31, 1 is still bad. Still bad. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to have to look up the enums here, but 3. Okay, they're all pretty bad. What about 9 is bridge too far. What about 5? Okay, 5 is normal, but if we go like Warren,
So 4 is the only one in the middle there. 4 is the only unknown at this point.
and
Yeah.
4
okay.
is Warren.
So 1, 2, 3 are all red by default, then yellow and white.
Yep, and then 6.
Oh, not even bold.
Yep. So as it gets less and less, so you can also do like debug, and you can see how it got grayed out. So there's the standard span of severities. So yeah, looking at the advanced sort of stuff, you can search for, let's just go ahead and try that one and see if that works. And there's been no high CPU because we've been not really trying. My poor little Ultra 9 has not been sweating at all, which is a big change from my previous computer where just running Zoom was making it cry.
Because that was what, in 95 or in 100 or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, it was old. It wasn't even actually officially Windows 11 supported. So it was struggling. Anyway, though, you can also like search if you had your Docker container stuff. I actually didn't get Docker installed on this machine. The previous machine had Docker installed, so yay. So yeah, but the output JSON pretty is nice since today. So if we looked, you can have this running on the host, and basically what it's going to do is, if I scroll this down a little bit, it's going to go ahead and hit using Docker's Python API. It will actually query and get for each container what level of CPU usage, memory usage, how much network transit, all of those things. And basically, you can have this just running every so many seconds or whatever with the sleep in between it so that you get sort of a snapshot of where the world is laying. But again, just in the interest of time here, we're going to boldly go forward. You can also just process in batch by basically picking up your logging and just running it through. You can also follow your logs in real time. It's sort of like doing a tail-f. So if we look here, you can see that it's watching it still, and if we were to insert more logs, it would be still throwing. There you can see you got another message there. But yeah, so you can also show logs since your last boot.
If you put a number, a negative number behind it, and you can do last n boot. So if you just had something happen 2 boots ago, you can do dash -3 or whatever.
Yeah. Really awesome time filtering. You can say, hey, I want from here to here. And you can also filter by what service, system D service it is.
The dash U flag is also simpler.
Yep. You can also filter by priority, error number, match across multiple fields. JSON output, we already looked short, it just is even shorter. And you can also, just like anything else, you can dump to files. For distributed, you can also chuck stuff into a network spot and stuff like that. You can also do like request ID. So if you have like a tag that you can tag it with an ID, or you can do, okay, find me all things that happened in the last 5 minutes with this error from the web server sort of stuff. Big gotchas. You can check and see how much disk you're actually using at the moment. So we can tell if things are going really badly. There you can see we're currently taking up 245 megs in the file system, which is a lot. You can also set in this ETC system D journal what the max amount is allowed to use, how big a file is allowed to be, and how many files there are, so you don't run it out of handles and resources. You can also do a log rotate, which basically just will move the current live log out, because remember, everything under the hood is still just a file, because it's Linux.
Might not be a human RIPA file, but it's a file.
Yep, and as you can see, I as the user don't have permission to do this, but
So when we say just a file, is it a database or is it?
It's
Text.
It's binary.
yeah, it's a binary blob file that it can parse easily and quickly.
So not strictly a database then.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know the exact format behind it, but don't consider it a binary. Different binary. Like if you go open it up, you'll be static. You open up a text editor.
Is a NoSQL database a database?
My answer, yes.
You can log the SQLite.
For SQL, I mean, this seems pretty structured to me.
Not it is a NoSQL.
yeah, it's not only SQL. The more modern,
SQL is not structured.
Right.
Right.
But
And
this
that's what.
appears pretty structured.
and in the fact with this, you can have multiple different tags and multiple different attributes that you chuck into it. So each record in the log journal will be different.
Think of NoSQL databases like JSON blob stores. That's what NoSQL database kind of is a kind of talking about. So that you sort of JSON blob. So it's structured, but it's not. It doesn't have an enforcement of the structure. It's just like
Yeah, it's not enforced by SQL. It's file is a flat file.
yeah, but not. But
Instead of a binary.
yeah. Anyways,
Yeah.
So it's proprietary, finger quotes, proprietary.
No, but
Binary
the
flat file.
SQL ones are usually
yeah.
proprietary.
But for this, yes, journal CTL's files that logs to is effectively proprietary. Like
Yeah.
the way you get to them
Well,
is
except
via
that's open source proprietary.
That's why I said finger quotes proprietary.
Okay, so let's just look
It's
at one.
okay.
So one of the things you can do is say,
I
hey,
mean,
verify this, the logs to make sure that there's nothing corrupted when I deleted stuff. And if we just go ahead and let's just do a head on that, just to see what cursed things come out.
might need a new terminal after you do that.
Yes. As you can see, it is a file, but it is not human usable. And then, yeah, you can also look and see what each of the files are, because
Yeah,
just
It's no
LS.
plain text.
Nope.
Yep. But yeah, so big gotchas. Let's see here. So yeah, there's some big stuff that you just can dump out. That's an example of good logging, where you can see, okay, what is my process ID, what latency, all those sort of things. And instead of just pulling it, we're randomly dumping data just to generate some fake logs.
Doesn't systemd tag the system? I guess it tags the idea of who logged it. That might
Yes.
necessarily be who sent it.
Yeah, so it can be both who logged it or what, by who, either the user or the process that logged it.
Mhm.
Like, for example, if you remember, all of my stuff from that Python script was the name of the Python file.
And in the little brackets of that was the PID.
Yep. But yeah, so it's all, if you remember journal system D, you have permissions, as well as it's all file-based permissions basically by default. And you just need to do user mod to add you to the group, and then restart the journal D service to actually pick that up. Filtering wise, there's all sorts of different priorities that you can set for your filtering. Again, I'll dump this out, but I'm recognizing it's been a long while here, but then the whole while here we've been Python integrating with our Python structure. But yeah, best practices, you can do sanitization and encrypt things so that you're not actually dumping private data in there. So like you maybe want to sanitize the last few digits of IP address or a phone number or something like that. And the stack of, yeah.
Passwords in the field. And that.
Yep. So you can, there's a difference between encrypting them, you can get it back, and sanitizing it, you're just yeeting it into the ether and that isn't coming back ever. But you can de-anonymize stuff pretty easily just because statistics are hard. And yeah, the series of logging levels, so debug, info, warn, error, critical are all good to use. I think there's a few more than that, but yeah, I think that gets them all. That sounds like it gets them all.
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing trace or other things like that, maybe reconsider your logging choice if you're thinking about a trace.
Yeah, trace. Well, it depends on. I mean, I've used trace before, just as the stuff that I want. When I turn it down that low, it's like, okay, this is the last
Like
chance.
basically tell me all the variable states that are going on in this thing.
But the great thing is, by setting your log levels, there's almost no cost to you application-wise if you have the log turned above trace.
There's one thing to be careful of when using Python specifically. You don't want to use F strings. You want to use the % operator because that way, only that's not evaluated if it needs to be logged. Because you use F strings, and let's say you're in production and you're in your F string trace, you're still going to spend time using F strings building that.
Yeah, you'll get burnt both the fact that it's going to call out to the function to see if I need to log it, as well as F string being built.
Yep.
Because it's not nearly as lazy as what it should be.
Correct.
But yeah, good call out there. And especially if you're logging at the level that it's going to be an issue. But yeah, as you can see here, you can do batch processing as well, where we can basically, we'll add stuff into a queue of things to log. And then every so many log events, then we actually flush them into the batch here. So we're basically popping off the messages and logging them all at the same time every few minutes or something like that. That way it's not sucking all the oxygen out of your application by logging too often. The other thing that you can use is our syslog. So like say if you have Apache that doesn't speak the new logging formats, you can set it as a systemd process to run every like couple minutes and pick up your new log. It will roll the log over and dump the contents of the log into your journal. And that's great for, you can also use our syslog to dump it to a centralized source as well. Questions, comments, snide remarks? We're sort of at the point that I was shooting for time-wise. Apologize that it was not nearly as well polished as it could have been. As we went with the previous slides here, for those who weren't in the room, what do we got?
Did we get logbot logging using these fancy features?
I have not gotten to that code yet, just because due to computer failure over the weekend and being out of town. Access to my Tails network to be able to actually get into logbot was limited. But if there's no big snide remarks here, we've got comments. Oh, yeah, Chrome.
Yeah,
I was
just looking at like how to log Chrome. Apparently it's -- enable logging -- v equals 1. And I also looked at logging Microsoft Teams. That's interesting.
Oh, yeah, that sounds real interesting and cursive. But yeah, we'll hit stop here to let's see here, stop recording.